All right. Welcome to the first edition of Between the Stones, a podcast for Halloween aficionados, home hunters, horror fans, and the like, where we discuss all things spooky. This particular episode is the episode number 1. And bear with me, I am new to this. Podcasting does not come naturally to me, but I decided that I was going to go ahead and take a dive into this. I wanted to talk about the state of the industry. So, that includes home haunting, pro haunting, and all the things connected to that. Halloween attractions as we know them. As we all know, Halloween has really become quite the phenomenon. Not that it's new. With some of the attention we've seen lately, it almost seems like Halloween is brand new and it just started. But Halloween's been here before most of us. And all of a sudden, it's become fever pitch. So I want to dive into what are some of the root causes of that and what are the outcomes of that. So before we get started, I wanted to just go ahead and acknowledge, first of all, that I myself am a home haunter and a Halloween aficionado. Love all things Halloween. I also have a channel, Haunt at the Roxbury, with my wife, Jamie, where we get into all kinds of spooky adventures. We have done everything from your big scream parks like Universal Studios to Cedar Point, Halloween weekends. We've done the pro haunts. We've been to Derange. We've been to Hell's Gate. We've been to Scream Machine in Taylor. We've done a lot. We want to do more. We want to get out to see a lot more. And then also we love decorating. And we love everything that goes along with that. We do sponsor a charity haunt here at our home. We work with Hope Clinic, which is a amazing organization that provides food, medical services, dental services, and mental health services for underprivileged families here in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And they serve the community well. So in 2020, we decided to partner with them and to do an event in order to collect non-perishable items, hygiene items, food items for their pantry in hopes to help bolster that effort that they make. So we enjoy that. But first and foremost, we are home hunters, and so we love putting together a haunted trail every year at our home. Started off with just a few window decorations where we put in some digital media in our windows, and we passed out some candy, maybe had some sounds going, and one by one, animatronic here, a tombstone there, an old crow here, and before you know it, you've got a full-blown operation. I'm pretty sure that story is the same for many who have gotten into this venture. But with that being said, at this current juncture, we've tried to make it more of an actual production. What we're doing now, we actually have volunteers that come in. We have everything from adults to students that come help us out. We've even had some kids from drama come help us out, and they're fantastic. So, but with all that said, our goal is to try to create an immersive experience for the people that attend our events. And we want the event to evolve every year. We want to add more layers to it. We do have a backstory. If you follow our YouTube channel, there is a fantastic gentleman by the name of Halloween Dan, a gentleman of all sorts from the UK, who did a intro for us, and it is fantastic. It really captured the essence of our story. We do have an actual story, and we try to always build on that story arc every year, and we try to give you different layers and pieces of that story arc. So if you haven't seen it, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see where we actually premiered that, and it's an animated version of our our story. So check it out. I think you would enjoy it, and it gives you more gives you more layers of what we do, and we hope that people become more fans of the lore. So as they see certain things that we're doing, they see the connection. But with that being said, every year, right around this time in July here, actually now, even earlier, as early as June, we've seen a lot of the retailers get prepared for the Halloween phenomenon. And I think everybody at this point is trying to cash in on it. I mean, I don't know if there's a retailer out there that isn't some way, some fashion involved with Halloween craze that has really started to really catch fire as of late. So you see a lot of retailers starting to put out their all of their sets for Halloween, from Bed Bath and Beyond. Well, I'm sorry, Bath and Body Works. For some reason, I always get those two stores. I always get them confused. One of them doesn't exist anymore. But Bath and Body Works is what I meant to say. You see them. You see Joann's, Michaels, Home Depot, Lowe's, At Home Store, which is a new player, Big Lots, and the list goes on. There's even more. I mean, a Dollar Tree. I mean, every thing you can think of, Five and Below. All of these operations get involved on Halloween, and I think there's more and more pressure as we go to see these things hit the shelves quicker to meet the demand, because no one wants to get left out of this phenomenon. So, with that being said, I wanted to kind of address a few things. I'm curious to know how you feel. I feel like there are Halloween purists and there are Halloween enthusiasts, and they're not always the same. A Halloween purist may say, well, that time, October 31st, and that month of October is special, and I don't want to see it run amok and lose its specialness, which there's an argument to be had there. And then there are those who just goes, Halloween 365 days. Me personally, I kind of float in between both camps. I love seeing it, but I know that I also don't want to see a drop in enthusiasm for what we all love and share. I want to see more and more people enjoy this time of year, and I think at some point it can be run into the ground, like we tend to do here in the States. We tend to take something and burn it up. So overconsumption is a fear. So what do you think? What are your thoughts? Is this awesome? Is this a curse? Could this backfire? I'm not sure, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are and what you think about how Halloween is starting to pretty much dominate the calendar. I mean, if you think about it, for me and my wife, I'm going to say Halloween season started as soon as the clock turned. I mean, we were in March attending an event for Halloween, probably one of the biggest events in the country in Transworld. And Halloween was on our doorstep, and from that point on, it was on, and we attended quite a few events even after that, all the way into where we are now in July, with all the stores putting out their props and things of that nature. So, like I said, it's a very exciting time, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Drop a line, leave a comment, send an email, whatever you want. I'm going to leave a couple of different ways to communicate, but we are definitely trying to build an audience here. And this is the first of hopefully many podcast. So anyway, with that being said, I want to address part two of the state of the industry. Part two, we want to talk about the gap between pro haunting and home haunting. At one point, if we take the clock and zoom it back a couple of decades, we'll see a velvet door that kind of separated the public from insiders and people who did pro haunt or did pro events, things of that nature. There was this gap. And with the onset of YouTube and social media, uh, these events have now become open to the public. I know at one point, Transworld still says it's for professionals, but the public has access to it where they didn't always. And I know some of the vendors are not privy to this. Some of the people who've been around for a while, they kind of like the way it was before. What say you? I think personally, these things have caused more of what we're seeing now with the phenomenon of Halloween, the opening of these closed door events to the public. But with that being said, I've also noticed a considerable gap being closed between pro hunts and home hunts. We've had the privilege to attend quite a few home hunts, some of which are mind blowing. And I do mean mind blowing. So now the game has definitely evolved. And with that being said, I feel like some of our retailers now are feeling the pressure to provide something that is more professional looking than what we got before, where you had the wire hanger zombie, you know? So now we're going to talk about where we are with some of the retail giants when it comes to decorating, and especially home haunting. There's two camps of decor. You have your indoor home decor where you've got, things that could be considered almost art-like, where you've got a mantelpiece, or you've got a picture or frame art, or you've got, little tchotchkes that go on shelves, things of that nature. I'm speaking more of home haunting, where we're talking about props. We're talking about animatronics. We're talking about set pieces, things of that set design, lighting, all of this. So we're going into the big end of this. And like I said, there is a considerable gap that has been closed between pro haunts and home haunts. Now, I know a lot of times you find home haunters that want to go pro. I've been asked that. Do you ever think you want to go pro? And the answer for me, probably now and probably always, will be no. Simply because this is a passion for me. I love doing it, and it really is a kid in the sandbox thing, and I feel like going pro means it's time to be an adult. You got to deal with so many things and so many dynamics and logistics that kind of take the fun out of it, for me. And my passion may carry me past that, but right now I like not having to deal with a fire marshal or building codes or things of that nature. Right now we just put our decorations up and we enjoy our community. I love having a community driven event that people can come to, and they don't have the pressure of having to really pour their wallet open. So I really enjoy that. It's kind of what makes Halloween for me. Not that I've ever have anything against the paid events. Paid events are awesome, and they should be paid when you think about the investment that goes into them. But like I said, we want to talk about the gap that's being closed. I think that gap is closing because of access to props that they would not have had before at one point. Home haunters now can go to companies like Poison Props and they can order. And Poison Props does not make a distinction between them and a pro haunt. Their money is just as good as the pro haunt's money. Now they may have to wait because maybe they have volume and demand to meet, but still they'll have access to that. Companies like Cyclone Signs that make signs for these pro haunts are now making signs for home haunters. I've seen it several times over, and it's very cool. Distortions Unlimited has made it very clear that they are just as much a friend of home haunts as they are of pro haunts. So, you're starting to see all of these things that were once insider stuff become public domain, where you have home haunters have access to it. So they've got productions that look much better and very professional. So with that being said, how does that affect the retail sector when it comes to a Spirit Halloween? Or when it comes to a Home Depot, or when it comes to a Lowe's, which is the places that most home haunters will go to find things to enhance their stories or enhance their scenes or sets, whatever it may be. I think right now we haven't really caught up from the retail sector. There still is some gap there when it comes to being able to go in a Spirit Halloween and find something that looks pro ready almost. Now, there are things you can find that you can kind of invest more into and maybe tweak and make them look better. But let's face it, if you spend $400, you don't want to spend $100 more trying to make that $400 look better. So, with that being said, I wanted to kind of go into some of these operations and let's kind of dig into them. The first one on the box will be the first one out of the bricks. We're going to talk about Lowe's. Lowe's this year came out with a pretty cool line. They had a lot of nautical stuff. And if we go back to last year, Lowe's had a very good drop. They had the 12-foot Scarecrow, which was really cool. They really upped the game and upped the ante for the bigs now, which is something that has become a phenomenon of home hunters, having 12-foot props, things of that nature. But the 12-foot Scarecrow, we raced to get it because he kind of fit our motif, So we were really excited to get him. But Lowe's dropped that. They were the first ones to have pneumatic props last year. So they really made a huge jump in what they were normally doing in the market. With that being said, let's come to present day. Lowe's dropped some pretty significant pieces this year. They dropped a 12-foot, for intensive purposes, we're going to say Gravedigger. I guess that's what we'll call him. He was very cool. There were a few things that I would say were minor annoyances as far as that prop goes. But he was cool to see live. Saw him in person. He's very cool. Not as good as a 12-foot Scarecrow if I was to measure both of those. The 12-foot Scarecrow was a revolutionary piece that I felt like everybody needed to have. The Gravedigger or Groundskeeper or whatever you want to call him was cool, but not as cool. We'll leave it at that. As far as the other pieces, they did a lot of nautical stuff. They did a kind of a old school 1930s diver with the big metal helmet and the underwater suit and stuff, which was kind of cool. The concept was very cool. Inside you see the skeleton. You guys know what I'm talking about. The piece was very cool looking, but it came in at a price of $350. Now, my first thought was, this is a cool piece. Now we need to see if it is really worth $350. I've had a chance to see it up close and personal in stores, and I have to say, it is not. It is not. If I was to give it a estimation on what it's worth, I would probably say it's more along the lines of maybe $220. I'll give you that. But no more. And that really is being generous. But I'm going to say it's about a $200 prop. Just when you think about the detail that is missing. And there are some things that are obvious that really take away from the value of it. For one being, there is no armature inside. It's just clothing. And there's nothing really. The arms look flimsy because it's just clothing. There is no armature. If there was some structure to it, and that would give it a little bit more beef, it'll look pretty good. The paint job on the helmet is obviously a bad paint job. But I mean, overall, from a distance, it looks serviceable. But as you get closer to it, it does not really pass the eyeball test. So with that being said, as cool as it may be, it was a little overpriced. Another piece they had drop in was the guy from Wednesday, the series. I forget the name of this prop. You guys know he was the big bad guy in the end. But they've got I believe, 7-foot version of him, or maybe 7 foot plus. And he's got the pilgrim hat with a scatter gun, it looks like. And he was in the same realm of somewhere around 350, 375, I think. And when I started thinking about that, I haven't had a chance to see him up close because they haven't had him in stores. So jury's still out on that, but I still have a hard time thinking that anything that Lowe's put out is worth $375. So with that being said, not going too far into gory details, I think Lowe's did a good job of coming up with some very unique and just very new pieces that were creative. I'm going to say they left an opportunity on the table and coming up with pricing that made sense. Their pricing was not good. So I'm going to give them a B in the department of their line, and I'm going to give them a D minus when it comes to pricing, because the pricing was definitely a missed opportunity. So we're going to leave it there on Lowe's. And Lowe's still hasn't got their whole collection in stores. So you still want to get out there and see this stuff. It's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I still believe their pricing was a big sore spot for many. And I think it will continue to be. And I think that's one thing they're going to have to really work on. Okay. So that's Lowe's. Let's turn the page. Now we enter Spirit Halloween. Spirit. One thing I'm going to say on a positive note from the get-go, Spirit Halloween provides an experience. And that is something that is very, 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 very important. For those of you that are old enough to remember, if you remember going in a place that's no longer with us, Toys R Us. Toys R Us, you'd go in there when you were a kid, and you would see Jeffrey the Giraffe walking around. You would see Mattel there showing their new toy or board game and having a Q&A session with the audience. You would have various different celebrities drop in. So going to Toys R Us was an experience. Somewhere along the lines, Toys R Us lost the idea of creating an experience for their customer, and they just made it about selling toys. And with the price point they had and the lack of that experience being there, Toys R Us quickly became a dinosaur. So I'm going to say this in conjunction with Spirit Halloween. One of the neatest things about Spirit Halloween is you go in, and every year you can't wait to see what kind of set they have. What is the ISE going to look like this year? Is it going to be a graveyard? Is it going to be a carnival? Is it going to be an island of dead people? Whatever it is, it creates an experience. You go in and they've got all of their animatronics out with the try me buttons, and the kids are going in there and stepping on the buttons and getting scared. And it is just an experience to go into the stores. I will always enjoy going into Spirit Halloween. And you've got costumes, you've got collectibles, you've got a little bit of everything. And so Spencer's, great idea to create an environment that people will remember and enjoy when they come into. Don't ever get away from that. Take a lesson from Toys R Us. You take away that experience and you just become a place to buy stuff. And without that experience, I think you guys are going to be in trouble in this environment. That experience is what makes Spirit special, okay? And like I said, I'll always enjoy going into the store. So when they open up, I can't wait for them to open up because I want to go in and see what they've done with the place, you know? It's always fun. With that being said, let's move on to the line of products that were launched by Spirit. This year, I was very curious to see what Spirit was going to drop. And this year, they had a very interesting lineup. We saw the likes of Cotton Candy Dan. We saw the likes of the Jester. I can't think of the name of the clown, but you know what it is. Fill in the blanks. We saw the little Angel of Death. That was an obvious rescan of Dagger Mike. We also saw the Witch, which was a rescan of Mr. Dark, or the Devil from last year. I can't think of her name. Tallulah. Towering Tallulah. Yeah, we saw that. We also saw the Ringmaster, which I thought was kind of cool. We haven't really seen him up close and personal yet, but I thought that was pretty cool. We did see the Grave Ghoul, I believe, the one that has a tombstone that kind of rocks back and forth and does this whole thing, you know, this guy, and he makes a noise. We saw quite a few things. You guys have, at this point now, with the amount of stuff that's out there in YouTube, I'm sure you have seen the lineup many times over. Now here I'm going to go ahead and get into what my thoughts were on that. My thoughts were this. Some of the ideas they had for their clowns were new. I love the tracking on the nose for the Jester. I can't think of Nibbles. Nibbles the clown. I love the tracking on the nose. From what I understand now, it's not perfect, but it's new technology. There's always going to be room to grow. But I thought that was really neat. I thought that was a great idea. As far as some of the other properties, I think about the Cremator. Looks cool. He looks cool. Um, Not groundbreaking. Um, we also had what was the name of that one? The nightmare guy, um, the pumpkin with the hood on. You guys know what I'm talking about. Sorry if I don't know these names. I should know them, but I've forgotten them. Um, that that particular prop looked like something that you would see on Sunstar or some of the very cheap Oriental Trading, some of the really cheap Halloween providers out there. It looked like an it looked like a cheap prop that you get when you're first starting, and it was really really kind of a telltale sign, which made me go back and look at a lot of things really closely. There, the one thing I will say they did a good job of, their Art the Clown actually is really cool looking. I think they did a very good job on that. The Michael Myers that they dropped, there's been a ton of Michael Myers. I'm not going to say I don't have a little fatigue on that, but there's been a ton of Michael Myers, ton of props. This particular one seemed to have some variable differences in the quality of the costume and the outfit, but the mask and the face overall was terrible. Let's just call it what it is. It was terrible. And so overall, what I saw from Spirit is I saw a lack of evolution. Um, I wanted really to see more. I wanted to see them step up. The reskins are great, but sometimes you need to start bringing out something new, something fresh. You need a new start. And I desperately wanted that for Spirit, and I felt like they missed the mark on that this year. Um, and we got some things that are kind of, for all intents and purposes, par for the course, right? Still kind of the same things. So Spirit Halloween, on their line, I would probably give them a C. I'll give them a C because they did have a few pieces that, like I said, if I'm going to mention the ones that are at the top, I'm going to mention the Art the Clown, and I'm going to mention Nibbles. Those two, and the Ringmaster, I'm going to reserve judgment on because I haven't really seen him in action. But those I'm gonna say were definite wins for them. But overall, the overall body of work, I think needed a lot more, and it was lackluster. And like I said, with the gap being closed between pro hunting and home hunting, more is demanded from these retailers. We want to see things that look pro ready. And I can't say anything in the Spirit lineup looked pro ready, to be honest with you. Um, and the same could be said about Lowe's. I don't believe anything was pro ready. Um, so, with that being said, one of the things I look forward to at Spirit Halloween is just seeing some of the stuff they have in the store, some of the props, some of the things that you can get. I always end up getting like little tchotchkes here and there, especially for interior decorating. I think they've got great options when it comes to that. I think they did a really good job last year learning from what Michaels did well, learning what Joann's did well. They made sure all of those type of things were in their store because there is a big group of interior decorating Halloween fanatics, and they really spoke to those folks last year. I went in and they had some really cool pieces, So those things are great, but we are addressing exterior decorating, home haunting, things of that nature. So that's what we're on right now. So overall, I'm going to say Spirit C plus, and the line. Pricing, I will say this: the pricing improved somewhat. It improved much better than Lowe's. I think Lowe's really dropped the ball on pricing, but Spirit did a somewhat decent job. Some of the prices were merited. The one piece I told you about that looked very bad, it was $99. Be honest with you, to me it's not even 50. But at least it wasn't a ridiculous price. Also, with some of the other pieces, I know they had the one Scarecrow Max Straw, which seems like a mockery because Jack Straw was one of the best animatronics the Spirit has had, especially when it comes to jump scares. But it's just a cool prop altogether. So Max Straw just seemed like a mockery because he is not as good. It's an okay looking prop. That's what I'm gonna give it that. But definitely not to be compared in the same sentence with Jack Straw. Not at all. But that prop was decent. It was cool looking and it was outdoor rated. So Spirit definitely upped their ante there. And the price was decent. It was almost 180 bucks. I think it should have been more like 150, but it was 180 bucks. Still not horrible, not horrible. Not like 350, 375 type horrible, right? So I'm going to give Spirit a B when it comes to pricing on there. So we're going to move on. Now we're going to talk about Home Depot. This year, it seemed like Home Depot played their cards really well. Last year was not super impressed with what they did. They're never horrible, but they were definitely not as great last year. I know some people really enjoyed Lethal Lily. She was awesome. She definitely was. It was one of those revolutionary pieces that you want to see. And Home Depot tends to always come up with some kind of revolutionary technology, whether it be outdoor rating, which they jumped on a table with, or putting a 12-foot prop out, right? So once again, Home Depot, like I said, really played their cards well. I noticed they were the last ones on the table. They did kind of a mini reveal, but they really didn't give you a deep dive on anything. You didn't really get a good view at anything, and they were obviously holding some aces in their sleeves. So on July 18th, we got a chance to really see the drop. And I will tell you this. Home Depot embodied some of the things I wanted to see with the closing of the gap between pro and home haunting. They came to the table with some very good products. The 12-foot Reaper, I could see that at a professional haunt, especially if it was a gateway or entryway. You put two out front, and those are your gatekeepers. I could totally see that. Pro ready. This is what I'm talking about. And then you see Captain Cuts. Lethal Lily was impressive last year, but Captain Cuts is a whole nother level. This is something that you literally can take that to Disney right now, stick them in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and experience, and no one will know the better, right? It'll look like it was dropped in and it belonged there. So there were countless other items. The Frankenstein, really well done. I'm sure there's plenty to nitpick, but once again, we're talking about closing that gap where home haunters are starting to get access to things that almost give them a pro look. And Home Depot was one of the few this year that started to provide some of those items and some of those set pieces and design pieces this year. And I'm hoping that this will inspire others, the Spirit Halloweens, the Lowe's, to start to get in line with this. Home haunting is really becoming bigger than it ever was. We now have access to stuff like Fright Maps, which you can get out with your family. And if you've got a big family, hey, who can afford to take an entire family of 6 to Universal Studios? I mean, man, that's an investment that most people can't make. Most people can't do that. And home haunting provides something for families now where people can get out and have that Halloween experience with their entire family without having to make financial decisions like, can I pay my mortgage after this? No, you can. And you probably can go out for pizza too as well. So home haunting is not going anywhere. It's only going to continue to evolve, and it's going to be imperative that the retailers start to provide something that allows the home haunter to provide better entertainment, more immersive entertainment for their communities. That, I'm speaking for everyone. I'm sure everybody wants to see this. Going back here for a minute on a side note, Spirit, one of the things I thought was really neat that you did this year is that you got in cahoots with Beastcraft. Now, I know it's not the first time you've done that. I think at one point Spirit was also working with Distortions Unlimited. But I think this is something that Spirit needs to embrace on a full-time basis, not an occasional moment where, oh, we did it 20 years ago. No, this needs to be something you do every year. Every year, maybe you need to get in cahoots with some of these pro makers. whether it's Poison Props, whether it's Distortions, whether it's Beastcraft, whether it's Original Sin, whoever it may be. You need to get out there and really collaborate with some of these artists because they do amazing stuff. And if they have the capability to mass produce something, or you can help them with it, I think it would be huge for you to do that. I know you don't have the purchasing power of a Lowe's or a Home Depot. I get that. But this is an opportunity for you to collaborate with an artist, help them grow, and help your brand grow as well. But like I said, I'm going to give Home Depot, I'm going to give them a B plus on their line. I'm going to give them a B plus. I'm not going to say an A because they did have some things that were less than, okay? But what I will give them is those things that were less than seem like they were value props. They had a Scarecrow that wasn't great. He was 99 bucks. Okay, well, now it's a game changer. They also had another Scarecrow that wasn't the greatest. He was $129 and he was 7 foot. Once again, value. There were a lot of value pieces that you were like, are you kidding me? That's only $99. So B plus, strong B plus, with the line that Home Depot came out. Pricing, I'm going to give them an A. I'm going to give them an A with pricing. And the reason being is their most amazing prop was reasonable. Nothing, I don't believe they had anything over $350. I don't think they had anything over. And that $350, when you spend that, you know exactly why you spent it. But to get the towering maple, the murderous maple tree, the thing is 9 foot tall and is only $250. Captain Cut, only $250. The 12-foot Reaper, $300. These are prices that make sense. These are prices that also are all inclusive. They're not isolating people. Now, just about everybody has something that they can get out of this line, and there was a lot of things to choose from that were really, really cool. The Plague Doctor, 7 foot plus, $199. Guys, wasn't hard to see that Home Depot came to play this year, and they did. They are the winners this year of helping bridge the gap between pro hunts and home hunts. So anyway, this has been our first episode of Between the Stones. Hope it's not the last one. I decided today to go ahead and get it started because I haven't done anything yet. But that's where it is. Also, honorable mention before I close, if you guys haven't seen Big Lots, for those old enough like myself that used to be Pick and Save, but Big Lots actually dropped 3 really respectable looking animatronics. Big Lots? Yes, Big Lots. So anyway, yes, I wanted to just bring that up as an honorable mention because I feel like it's wrong to leave them out. They came out with a werewolf that's, I'm going to say he's probably 9 foot. He may be smaller or bigger, I'm not sure, but he is gargantuan. And if you haven't seen it, go look at the demo. It was a sneak on him. They haven't officially released him yet, but he is phenomenal. And it was original. He has this action where he's spring-loaded. So he basically starts off hunched over, but at some point he like springs backwards like he's tearing his shirt open. And for once, he doesn't have that same generic howl that all of the werewolves have. I mean, literally every werewolf sounds the same. But this may be the one that I think has been the better of what we've seen in a long time. Very cool, and kudos to Big Lots for launching that. I think Techie made it. Techie has really stepped up their game. So, and then also the other item they had was a 7 foot Scarecrow, which is more of a static prop, but he's got these 3 crows that circulate around his head, and the sculpt on him, he's very creepy looking, and I want him. I want him. I don't think I've ever said that about a Big Lots prop. I want him. He's very cool. Depending on price, we haven't gotten pricing yet. They also have a zombie. The zombie, I believe, was $150, and I think he's 6 foot, and he's kind of cool. So check out Big Lots. They've got a line coming out. They haven't released everything. What you see in stores is just their preliminary stuff, but they do have some animatronics coming out that actually look very, very respectable. So anyway, this has been the first episode of Between the Tombstones. It's really Between the Stones. I hope you enjoyed it. please leave some feedback. Let me know. This is my first launch into this. I have no idea how it's going to go over. And I will be also putting this on the YouTube channel for Haunt at the Roxbury, so you have a visual. But because sometimes we may have some props, and I want you to be able to see a visual. So, but it mostly will be a podcast, and I'm hoping that this is something that I can get better at and grow in. So this is the first attempt, and that is it. Signing off. Between the Stones. We will see you somewhere in the fog.